Welcome everyone in the room and online. We're very glad that you're here to join us today. We have two events this evening and then more tomorrow. I hope that you can join us tomorrow as well for a conference that begins at 10 a.m. Chicago time with a panel of papers on Milosz and dialogic spaces. Then a brief break, and then we have a roundtable concerning Milosz and the poetry of place, conforming to the title for the conference, and then finally a session in the afternoon devoted to translation with the translators Stanley Bill, Lillian Valley, and Robert Haas joining us. So we hope that you can join us for that tomorrow. Today we are going to start with a multilingual reading of Milosz's poetry. And I should begin by acknowledging the source of this whole project. The idea came from the Lithuanian consulate, and they have been very supportive throughout. And we were interested from the beginning in thinking about Milosz in all of the places where he was situated at various points in his life, all the way back to his youth in Vilna. And we will begin with some Lithuanian translations of Milosz's poetry. They will be read in English, then in Lithuanian. Then we will move to, they were not written in Lithuanian, I just want to emphasize. Then we will move to readings in Polish. That will also, we will read both in English, then in Polish. And we have a number of people contributing. I think they will be introduced by my colleague in a moment. So I just wanted to say that process, maybe some of you in the audience don't speak Lithuanian. Maybe some of you don't speak Polish, but I think it will be interesting for all of us just to listen to the sounds of the poetry in these different languages. Of course, the Russian futurists are famous for promoting the idea that poetry is at its root sound, after all, and they promoted the idea of an individual language which no one else would understand, and that would sort of free us from these sort of representational limitations of understanding those sounds. So I hope that you will appreciate all aspects of this reading and listen as attentively to the Lithuanian and the Polish as you might to the English and find meaning in all of it. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to my colleague Bożena Shallcross, who will be saying just a few words about what's going to take place.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill. I will be brief. So first, hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us in the virtual space. This reading is indeed a sort of an introduction to the trilingual soundscape that we hope to create. So the question whether it is the event is oriented towards a better understanding of poetry, of Miłosz's poetry, is really an open question. I would say that it's a rather catered to those who indulge in the sound of poetry, in the mysterious arrangement of vowels, and this would come across beautifully in the first part of the reading. And Bill will first, you will read in English first. Oh, you are reading both. Okay, thank you. I was not informed. Okay, so you will first read in English, and then you will be followed. You follow the reading in Lithuanian. So we can't wait. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, really nice to be here. I'm Audre Budrys Nakas, And before I begin reading, I will read the English first, but my husband reminded me of this yesterday, and Cynthia confirmed it, that Robert Haas had asked Milosz when Milosz was in his 80s, he was studying Lithuanian, and Robert Haas says, well, why are you doing this you've lived such a long life. Why are you studying Lithuanian now? And he said, it may be that that's the language spoken in heaven. So if you don't understand Lithuanian, let's just imagine perhaps it is. So with that, I'll begin with a poem called Philology. So this is dedicated to Konstantinas Sirvydas. He was a professor of theology in the 1600s in the Vilnius Academy, or the University of Vilnius, which Milosz attended. And he was the author of the first grammar of the Lithuanian language and also the first trilingual dictionary, Lithuanian, Polish, and Latin. So this is dedicated to Sirvydas, first in English. He is running, lifting a little the skirt of his winter cloak, his stockinged ankles, snow and crows. He caught it and has it, keeps it in his mouth, a word he has heard as a child by his native river, near dugouts in rushes, footbridges, hazel bushes, and the arcades of the seminary to his cell. He's running to write it down with a goose pen next to the register of Latin words. He coughs, logs in the fireplace, smoke, and the Academy Societatis Jesu soars above the streets, and the angels take flesh in stone and gypsum in the mode barocco, with stains of sweat under armpits. How many shirts, how many skirts covering swarthy, shadowy bellies and pants, generations of pants, of jerkins, of breeches, of cloaks and burlaps on naked skin. Bagpipes and violins, they danced on the green, love meetings, touchings, teasing games. And all of them knew the same words, which exist, endure, though they died long ago, as if not from the earth, from the night, from the flesh, words arrive, but from lofty ethereal domains, visiting him, her and an old man, a child, submitted to their own law of genitive, dative, obedient for centuries to a preposition. I open a dictionary as if I summoned the souls he enchanted into mute signs on a page, and I try to visualize him, a lover, to have some comfort in my mortality. Filologia. Bėga pakylėjęs žieminio apsiautalų skverną, kojinėti kulšneliai, varnos ir sniegas, pagavo ir turi, laiko lūpose žodį, išgirsta vaikystėj prie gimtosios upės, kur luotai nendrėse, lieptai, lazdynai ir dygūs medinių pirkių stogai. Pro alumnato arkas bėga savo celėn, žąsies plunksną įtraukti į rejestrą greta lotyniškų žodžių. Kosti, Malkaus traška židiny ir Akademija Societatis Jėzų sklendžia virš gatvių ir angelai įsikūnija į gipsą ir akmenį modo baroko. Su prakaitų dėmėm po pažastim, kiek marškinių, sijonų slepiančių tamsius ūksmingus klubus ir apatinių, kartos apatinių, liemenių, kelnių, durtinių, sermėgų ant pliko kūno. Dūdos ir smuikai, šoko žolynuos, šnabždesiai, prisilietimai, pas ką žydi žiedas. O visi jie mokėjo tuos pačius žodžius, kurie tebegyvena, jiems kada išmirus, tarsi būtų ne žemėj, ne naktį, ne kūne užgimę, bet iš eterių kunigaikštijų lankytų jį ir ją, senelį, vaiką, paklusę savosioms tiesoms, genityvui, datyvui, prielinksnių tarnystėje per amžių amžius. Atverčiu žodyną, tarsi šaukčiau sielas, įkerėtas lapuose į nebylų garsą. ir bandau įžvelgti jį, kuris mylėjo, kad mažiau mane slėgtų mano mirtingumas. Okay, so that was Filologia. Next, genealogy for Jan Lebenstein. Certainly we have much in common. We who grew up in Baroque cities, without asking what king has founded a church we passed every day, what princesses lived in the palace, what were the names of architects, sculptors, where they came from, and when, what made them famous. We prefer to play ball in front of ornate porticos, to run past bay windows and marble stairs. Later on, benches in shadowy parks were dearer to us than a throng of gypsum angels overhead. And yet, something remained. Our liking for tortuous line, our high spirals of contraries, flame-like, and dressing our women in abundantly draped silks to brighten the dance of skeletons. So that was written in Berkeley in 1985. Genealogia. Tikriausiai turim nemažą bendro, visi mes augę baroko miestuos. Tuomet, kasdien praeidami bažnyčią, neklausim, koks karalius ją įkūrė, nei koks didikas gyveno rūmuos, nei kuo vardu buvo skulptoriai ir architektai, iš kur ir kada atvyko ir kuo išgarsėjo. Po grakščiomis kolonadomis verčiau sau spardėme kamuolį, bėgiojom aplink marmurinius balkonus ir laiptus. Po to mielesni mums buvo suoleliai ūksminguose parkuos, nei virš galvų gipsiniais angelų kareivijų tankmės. O vis dėlto mums šis tas liko. Polinkis linijai lenktai, prieštaravimų aukštos spiralės liepsningos, moterys rengiamos gausiai klostėtais drabužiais, idant skeletų šokiui suteiktų puošnumo. All right. And my final poem for this evening, oh my goodness, and this was translated by Mantas Adomėnas into Lithuanian. And the last poem that I shall do, a poem for the end of a century. When everything was fine and the notion of sin had vanished, and the earth was ready in universal peace to consume and rejoice without creeds and utopias, I, for unknown reasons, surrounded by the books of prophets and theologians, of philosophers, poets, searched for an answer, scowling, grimacing, waking up at night, muttering at dawn. What oppressed me so much was a bit shameful. Talking of it aloud would show neither tact nor prudence. It might even seem an outrage against the health of mankind. Alas, my memory does not want to leave me, and in it live beings, each with their own pain, each with their own dying, their own trepidation. Why then innocence on paradisical beaches, an impeccable sky over the church of hygiene? Is it because that was long ago? To a saintly man, so goes an Arab tale, God said, somewhat maliciously, had I revealed to people how great a sinner you are, they could not praise you. And I, answered the pious one, had I unveiled to them how merciful you are, they would not care for you. To whom should I turn with that affair so dark of pain and also guilt in the structure of the world? If either here below or over there on high, no power can abolish the cause and the effect. Don't think, don't remember the death on the cross. though every day he dies, the only one all-loving, who without any need consented and allowed to exist all that is, including nails of torture. Totally enigmatic, impossibly intricate. Better to stop speech here. This language is not for people. Blessed be jubilation, vintages and harvests, even if not everyone is granted serenity. Eilės šimtmečio pabaigai. Kuomet jau buvo gera ir neliko nuodėmės jausmo, kai jau pasirengė žemė visuotiniai ramybei, vartoti bei linksmintis be tikėjimų ir utopijų, aš, nežinia kodėl, pranašų, teologų, filosofų, poetų knygomis apsikrovęs, vis ieškojau atsakymo, persikreipęs, susiraukęs, atsibusdamas naktį, per miegus sutrikdamas auštant. Tai, kas man taip knietėjo, buvo truputį gėdinga. Apie tai prakalbėti liudytų taktų stygių, visišką neapdairumą. Netgi pasikeisinimą galbūt į visos žmonijos sveikatą. Deja, atmintis manoji nenorėjo manęs apleisti, o joje gyvos būtybės, kiekviena su savo skausmu, kiekviena su mirtim savaja ir su savuoju drebėjimu. Ir iš kurgi tuomet nekaltybė žemės rojaus paplūdimiuose ir dangus dėmės nepaliestas viršum higienos šventyklos? Ar tik todėl, kad tai šitaip seniai jau įvyko? Kitados šventų būdų išminčiui, kaip skelbia arabų legenda, Dievas tarė kiek pagiežingai: jeigu žmonėms aš apreikščiau, koksai tu esi nusidėjėlis, jie tavęs daugiau nebegerbtų. O jeigu aš jiems atskleisčiau, koks tu esi gailestingas, atrėžė vyras šventasis, tavimi jie pasibodėtų. Į kągi galiu tuomet kreiptis, tuo reikalu tokiu neaiškiu? Skausmo, drauge ir kaltės pasaulio architektūroje. Jeigu ne čia apačioj, nei tenai aukštybėse jokia galybė panaikinti negali priežasties ir pasekmės ryšio. Negalvoti, neprisiminti mirties ant kryžiaus. Nors ir kasdien numiršta vienintelis tas, kuris myli, kuris be jokios būtinybės sutiko su tuo ir leido, kad tai, kas yra, egzistuotų, drauge su kankinimo įnagiais. Visiškai paslaptinga, painiava, neįmanomybė. Geriau jau liautis kalbėti, ši kalba ne žmonėms ji. Te bus palaimintas džiaugsmas, vyno darymas ir javapjūtė. Tai kas, kad gal ne kiekvieną aplankė ramybės paguoda. Translated by Mantas Adomėnas. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for this wonderful performance. The next reader is Eakin, and she will read a brief metaphysical poem, Encounter, translated by both Czesław Miłosz and Lilian Vallée.
Encounter. We were riding through frozen fields in a wagon at dawn. A red wing rose in the darkness, and suddenly a hare ran across the road, and one of us pointed to it with his hand. That was long ago. Today, neither of them is alive, not the hare nor the man who made the gesture. Oh, my love, where are they? Where are they going? the flash of a hand, streak of movement, rustle of pebbles. I ask not out of sorrow, but in wonder. Vilna, 1936.
Yes, it's one of Miłosz's earlier poems. Oh, I have to bring my text. So I have it. So I wanted to show you before this first reading in Polish that I am relying on the very, very scholarly edition of Czesław Miłosz's collected works published in Kraków by Jerzy Ilk, a friend of mine, the director of the publishing house Znak. He and other people around Ilk were very, very close friends of Czesław Miłosz during the last, so to speak, phase of his life. So spotkanie. Jechaliśmy przed świtem po zamarzłych polach. Czerwone skrzydło wstawało. Jeszcze noc. I zając przebiegł nagle tuż przed nami, a jeden z nas pokazał go ręką. To było dawno. Dzisiaj już nie żyją ani zając, ani ten, co go wskazywał. Miłości moja, gdzież są? Dokąd idą błysk ręki, linia biegu, szelest grud? Nie z żalu pytam, ale z zamyślenia. And let me introduce now our colleague from the Slavic department at the University of Chicago, Erik, who will read Mittelbergheim.
Mittelbergheim. Yeah. So, Mittelbergheim. Wine sleeps in casks of Rhine oak. I am awakened by the bell of a chapel in the vineyards of Mittelbergheim. I hear a small spring trickling into a well in the yard, a clatter of sabots in the streets. Tobacco drying under the eaves, and plows and wooden wheels and mountain slopes and autumn are with me. I keep my eyes closed. Do not rush me. You, fire, power, might, for it is too early. I have lived through many years, and as in this half dream, I felt I was attaining the moving frontier beyond which color and sound come true, and the things of this earth are united. Do not yet force me to open my lips. Let me trust and believe I will attain. Let me linger here in Mittelbergheim. I know I should. They are with me. Autumn and wooden wheels and tobacco hung under the eaves. Here and everywhere is my homeland. Wherever I turn, and whatever language I would hear, the song of a child, the conversation of lovers. Happier than anyone, I am to receive a glance, a smile, a star, silk creased at the knee. Serene beholding, I am to walk on hills in the soft glow of day, over waters, cities, roads, human customs. Fire, power, might, you who hold me in the palm of your hand, whose furrows are like immense gorges combed by the southern wind. You who grant certainty in the hour of fear, in the week of doubt. It is too early. Let the wine mature. Let the traveler sleep in Mittelbergheim.
And Aleksandra Kremer. Can I speak? Professor Aleksandra Kremer will join us from Harvard University, and she will read the same poem, Mittelbergheim, in the translation by the author, by Czesław Miłosz.
Hello. Thank you so much for the invitation. Before I start reading, I just wanted to say that it seems to me that Miłosz really liked his own readings of his poems. So here I will try just a little bit, maybe to imitate his reading style, his intonation. It's not fully possible, but I'll try a little bit as an experiment. Mittelbergheim. Wino śpi w beczkach z dębu nadreńskiego. Budzi mnie dzwon kościołka między winnicami Mittelbergheim. Słyszę małe źródło, pluszczące w cembrowinę na podwórzu, stuk drewniaków na ulicy. Tytoń schnący pod okapem i pługi, i koła drewniane, i zbocza gór, i jesień przy mnie są. Oczy mam jeszcze zamknięte. Nie goń mnie, ogniu, potęgo, siło, bo za wcześnie. Przeżyłem wiele lat i jak w tym śnie czułem, że sięgam ruchomej granicy, za którą spełnia się barwa i dźwięk i połączone są rzeczy tej ziemi. Ust mi przemocą jeszcze nie otwieraj. Pozwól mi ufać, wierzyć, że dosięgnę. Daj mi przystanąć w Mittelbergheim. Ja wiem, że powinienem. Przy mnie są jesień i koła drewniane i liście tytoniu pod okapem. Tu i wszędzie jest moja ziemia, gdziekolwiek się zwrócę i w jakimkolwiek usłyszę języku piosenkę dziecka, rozmowę kochanków. Bardziej od innych szczęśliwy mam wziąć spojrzenie, uśmiech, gwiazdę, jedwab zgięty na linii kolan. Pogodny, patrzący, mam iść górami w miękkim blasku dnia, nad wody, miasta, drogi, obyczaje. Ogniu, potęgo, siło, ty, co mnie trzymasz we wnętrzu dłoni, której bruzdy są jak wąwozy olbrzymie, czesane wiatrem południa. Ty, co dajesz pewność w godzinie lęku, tygodniu zwątpienia, za wcześnie jeszcze. Niech wino dojrzewa, niechaj podróżni śpią w Mittelbergheim. Thank you.
Discern, Professor Kremer managed to read using the Eastern accent, the accent from Eastern Poland, which Miłosz, of course, had. The next reader is our dear friend, the writer Maryse Meijer, and she will be reading A Magic Mountain, translated by Czesław Miłosz and Lilian Vallée.
Hello, I hope everyone can hear me. Thank you to Bożena for inviting me to this wonderful reading. I'll be reading A Magic Mountain. I don't remember exactly when Budberg died. It was either 2 years ago or 3. The same with Chin, whether last year or the one before. Soon after our arrival, Budberg, gently pensive, said that in the beginning it is hard to get accustomed, for here there is no spring or summer, no winter or fall. I kept dreaming of snow and birch forests, where so little changes you hardly notice how time goes by. This is, you will see, a magic mountain. Budberg, a familiar name in my childhood. They were prominent in our region, this Russian family, descendants of German Balts. I read none of his works, too specialized. And Chen, I have heard, was an exquisite poet which I must take on faith, for he wrote in Chinese. Sultry Octobers, cool Julys, trees blossom in February. Here the nuptial flight of hummingbirds does not forecast spring. Only the faithful maple sheds its leaves every year, for no reason. Its ancestors simply learned it that way. I sensed Budberg was right, and I rebelled. So I won't have power, won't save the world? Fame will pass me by, no tiara, no crown? Did I then train myself, the unique, to compose stanzas for gulls and sea haze, to listen to the foghorns blaring down below? Until it passed. What passed? Life. Now I am not ashamed of my defeat. One murky island with its barking seals, or a parched desert, is enough to make us say, yes, we see. Even asleep, we partake in the becoming of the world, and endurance comes only from enduring. With a flick of the wrist, I fashioned an invisible rope, and I climbed it, and it held me. What a procession, what delights, what caps and hooded gowns. Most respected Professor Budberg, most distinguished Professor Chien, wrong honorable Professor Miłosz, who wrote poems in some unheard of tongue. Who will count them anyway? And here, sunlight, so that the flames of their tall candles fade. And how many generations of hummingbirds keep them company as they walk on across the magic mountain. And the fog from the ocean is cool, for once again it is July. Thank you.
This poem is very important for Czesław Miłosz. It is a poem that relates to his lifelong fascination with Thomas Mann, the German writer. And of course, it is a poem that has a link with his novel, Der Zauberberg. So I will read now in this rather little known language. Czarodziejska Góra. Nie pamiętam dokładnie, kiedy umarł Budberg, albo 2, albo 3 lata temu, ani kiedy Chen, rok temu czy dawniej. Wkrótce po naszym przyjeździe Budberg, melancholijnie łagodny, powiedział, że z początku trudno się przyzwyczaić, bo nie ma tutaj ni wiosny i lata, ni jesieni i zimy. Śnił mi się ciągle śnieg i brzozowe lasy, gdzie prawie nie ma pór roku ani spostrzec, jak upływa czas. To jest, zobaczy pan, Czarodziejska Góra. Budberg w dzieciństwie domowe nazwisko. Dużo znaczyła w kienajskim powiecie ta rosyjska rodzina z bałtyckich Niemców. Nie czytałem żadnej z jego prac, zanadto specjalne. A Chen był podobno znakomitym poetą. Muszę to przyjąć na wiarę, bo pisał tylko po chińsku. Upalny październik, chłodny lipiec, w lutym kwitną drzewa. Godowe loty kolibrów nie zwiastują wiosny, tylko wierny klon zrzucał co roku liście bez potrzeby. To tak nauczyli go przodkowie. Czułem, że Budberg ma rację i buntowałem się, więc nie dostanę potęgi, nie uratuję świata i sława mnie ominie, ni tiary, ani korony. Czyż na to ćwiczyłem siebie, jedynego, żeby układać strofy dla mew i migieł od morza, słuchać, jak buczą tam nisko okrętowe syreny? Aż minęło. Co minęło? Życie. Teraz nie wstydzę się mojej przegranej. Jedna pochmurna wyspa ze szczekaniem fok albo sprażona pustynia i tego mam dosyć, żeby powiedzieć yes, tak, si. Nawet śpiąc pracujemy nad stawaniem się świata. Tylko z wytrwałości bierze się wytrwałość. Gestami stwarzałem niewidzialny sznur i wspinałem się po nim i trzymał mnie. Jaka procesja, quel délice, jakie birety z wyłogami togi. mnogouważajemy profesor Budberg, most distinguished professor Chen, ciemnowielmożny profesor Miłosz, który pisywał wiersze w bliżej nieznanym języku. Kto ich tam zresztą policzy? A tu słońce. Tak, że bieleje płomień ich wysokich świec i ileż pokoleń kolibrów im towarzyszy, kiedy tak posuwają się po czarodziejskiej górze. I zimna mgła od morza znaczy, że znów lipiec. Lindskog, also our colleague, a member of the Slavic department, will read both in English and Polish a poem about the fourth dimension. Ustawią tam ekrany.
They will place telescreens there, and our life will be appearing from end to end, with everything we have managed to forget, as it seemed forever, and with dresses of our time, which would be laughable and piteous, had we not been wearing them because we knew nothing better. Armageddon of men and women, it is no use to cry. I loved them. Everyone seemed to me a child, greedy and in need of caresses. I liked beaches, swimming pools, and clinics, for there they were the bone of my bone, the flesh of my flesh. I pitied them and myself, but this will not protect me. The word and the thought are over. A shifting of a glass, an averting of one's eyes, fingers unbuttoning a blouse, foolishness, a cheating gesture, contemplation of clouds, a convenient dispatch, only that. And what if they march out, tinkling bells at their ankles? If slowly they enter the flame which has taken them as well as me? Bite if you have any, fingers. And again, look at everything from end to end. In Polish, ustawią tam ekrany. Ustawią tam ekrany i nasze życie będzie się ukazywać od początku do końca. Ze wszystkim, co zdołaliśmy zapomnieć, jak się zdawało, na zawsze. I strojami epoki, które byłyby tylko śmieszne i żałosne, gdybyśmy nie my je nosili, nie znając innych. Armagedon mężczyzn i kobiet. Na próżno krzyczeć. Ja ich kochałem. Każdy wydawało mi się dzieckiem łakomym i spragnionym pieszczot. Lubiłem plaże, pływalnie i kliniki, bo tam oni kość mojej kości, mięso mojego mięsa. Litowałem się nad nimi i sobą, ale to nie obroni. Skończone jest słowo i myśl, przesunięcie szklanki, odwrócenie głowy, palce rozpinające suknię, błazeństwo, oszukańczy gest, kontemplacja obłoków, zabójstwo dla wygody. Tylko to. I cóż z tego, że odchodzą dzwoniąc dzwoneczkami u kostek, że wkraczają tak powoli w ogień, który zabrał ich i mnie. Gryź, jeśli masz palce. I znów oglądaj, co było od początku do końca.
Our last reader tonight is Professor William Nickel, and he will read two poems, Earth and Passing Through the Card. I will follow with the reading in Polish, or?
Each time, I think, after each poem, right?
Okay,
Yes.
yeah.
So again, the first poem is Earth, written in Washington, D.C. in 1949. I wanted to get an early poem, although we have had some other early poems as well, but the one that gave the perspective from Washington. My sweet European homeland. A butterfly lighting on your flower stains its wings with blood. Blood gathers in the mouths of tulips, shines star-like inside a morning glory, and washes the grains of wheat. Your people warm their hands at the funeral candle of a primrose, and hear on the fields the wind howling in the cannons ready to be fired. You are a land where it's no shame to suffer, for one is served here a glass of bitter liquor with lees, the poison of centuries. On your broken evening of wet leaves, by the waters that carry the rust of centurions' sunken armor, at the foot of blasted towers in the shadow of their spans like aqueducts, under the quiet canopy of an owl's wings, a red poppy touched by the ice of tears. Translated by Milosz and Robert Haas.
Ziemia. Słodka moja europejska ojczyzno. Motyl siadając na twoich kwiatach plami skrzydła krwią. Krew się zbiera w paszczy tulipanów, gwiazdy mienią się na dnie powojów i spłukuje ziarna twego zboża. Twoi ludzie grzeją się na ręce przy woskowej gromnicy pierwiosnka i na polach słyszą, jak zawodzi wicher w lufach ustawionej broni. Ziemią jesteś, gdzie nie wstyd jest cierpieć, bo usłużą szklanką gorzkich płynów, w której na dnie jest trucizna wieków. W twój rozdarty wieczór mokrych liści, nad wodami, w których dotąd płynie rdza zapadłej zbroi centurionów, u podnóża potrzaskanych wieżyc, w cieniu przęseł jak cień akwedutów, pod spokojnym baldachimem skrzydeł sowy, mak czerwony, ścięty szronem łez.
And for the last poem, I will say I took the approach of Aleksandra Kremer. I found Milosz reading in English, and I thought that I had a list of about 25 or 30 poems, and I was finding it hard to decide what to read. But I decided to read one that he had read in English, and also because it gives another reference point, although it was written in Berkeley in 1980, translated by Miłosz and Renata Garzinski, but it refers to Paris and the time in Paris. And he introduced it by explaining that at that time in his life, he felt it was important to visit this place that he saw as the capital of the world, bypassing Rue Descartes. Bypassing Rue Descartes, I descended toward the Seine, shy, a traveler, a young barbarian just come to the capital of the world. We were many, from Iasi and Kolashvar, Vilna and Bucharest, Saigon and Marrakesh. Ashamed to remember the customs of our homes about which nobody here should ever be told. The clapping for servants, barefooted girls hurry in, dividing food with incantations, choral prayers recited by master and household together. I had left the cloudy provinces behind. I entered the universal, dazzled and desiring. Soon enough, many from Iasi and Kolashvar or Saigon or Marrakesh would be killed because they wanted to abolish the customs of their homes. Soon enough, their peers were seizing power in order to kill in the name of the universal, beautiful ideas. Meanwhile, the city behaved in accordance with its nature, rustling with throaty laughter in the dark, baking long breads and pouring wine into clay pitchers, buying fish, lemons, and garlic at street markets. Indifferent as it was to honor and shame and greatness and glory, because that had been done already and had transformed itself into monuments representing nobody knows whom, into arias hardly audible, and into turns of speech. Again, I lean on the rough granite of the embankment, as if I had returned from travels through the underworlds and suddenly saw in the light the reeling wheel of the seasons, where empires have fallen and those once living are now dead. There is no capital of the world, neither here nor anywhere else. And the abolished customs are restored to their small fame. And now I know that the time of human generations is not like the time of the earth. As to my heavy sins, I remember one most vividly, how one day, walking on a forest path along a stream, I pushed a rock down onto a water snake coiled in the grass. And what I have met with in life was the just punishment which reaches sooner or later the breaker of a taboo.
So this is a poem really about Miłosz the naturalist, who gains this perspective while being in Paris. Rue de Car. Mijając ulicę de Car, schodziłem po sekwanie, młody barbarzyńca w podróży, onieśmielony przybyciem do stolicy świata. Było nas wielu, z Jas, Kolaszwaru, Wilna i Bukaresztu, Saigonu i Marrakesz. Wstydliwie pamiętających domowe zwyczaje, o których nie należało mówić tu nikomu. Klaśnięcie na służbę, nadbiegają dziewki bose, dzielenie pokarmów z inkantacjami, choralne modły odprawiane przez panów i czeladź. Zostawiłem za sobą pochmurne powiaty, wkraczałem w uniwersalne, podziwiając, pragnąc. Następnie wielu z Jas i Koloszwaru, albo Saigonu, albo Marrakesz było zabijanych, ponieważ chcieli obalić domowe zwyczaje. Następnie ich koledzy zdobywali władzę, żeby zabijać w imię pięknych idei uniwersalnych. Tymczasem zgodnie ze swoją naturą zachowywało się miasto, gardłowym śmiechem odzywając się w ciemności, wypiekając długie chleby i gliniane dzbanki, nalewając wino, ryby, cytryny i czosnek kupując na targach, obojętne na honor i hańbę, i wielkość, i chwałę, ponieważ to wszystko już było i zmieniło się w pomniki przedstawiające nie wiadomo kogo, wledło słyszalne arie albo zwroty mowy. Znowu opieram łokcie o szorstki granit nabrzeża, jakbym wrócił z wędrówki po krajach podziemnych i nagle zobaczył w świetle kręcone się koło sezonów. Tam, gdzie upadły imperia, a ci, co żyli, umarli. I nie ma już tu i nigdzie stolicy świata. I wszystkim obalonym zwyczajom wrócono ich dobre imię. I już wiem, że czas ludzkich pokoleń niepodobny do czasu ziemi, a z ciężkich moich grzechów jeden najlepiej pamiętam. Jak przechodząc raz leśną ścieżką nad potokiem, zrzuciłem duży kamień na wodnego węża zwiniętego w trawie. I co mnie w życiu spotkało, było słuszną karą, która prędzej czy później łamiącego zakaz dosięgnie.
So we are going to take a break now until 6, and then we will continue with Cynthia Haven. She'll be reading from her book, which really kind of miraculously came out just last week in perfect timing for the conference. And I just want to say the last poem I think touches on, as Bożena noted, these two elements of poetics of place. I guess at one point when Bożena and I were talking about the title for the conference, we were considering biopoetics as a possibility, but that attention to nature, but then also that attention to culture and a kind of tension between those two. So I think that's going to come up also in Cynthia's, I think that will come up in our discussion as well. And it's certainly going to come up tomorrow quite often. So we will see you, those of you online and in the room, if you're staying for the second part, we'll start again at 6 o'clock.